The ventilator made a soft mechanical hiss beside Lily's bed, pushing air into my daughter's lungs while I sat close enough to touch her hand. She was 17, usually impossible to keep still for more than 5 minutes, and now she lay beneath a thin hospital blanket with tubes, monitors, and tape surrounding a face that looked far too calm. The doctor had told me they had stabilized her severe respiratory crisis, but stabilized was not the same as safe. They could not tell me when she would breathe without the machine. My phone vibrated against my leg. I almost ignored it. Then I saw my mother's name. Her message read, "Bring the cake to the party now." For several seconds, I simply stared at the screen. Before Lily had collapsed, I had agreed to pick up the custom cake for my nephew Ethan's 18th birthday. The cake was still waiting at the bakery. Everything else about that day had stopped matching the moment the ambulance doors closed. I typed back, "Mom, Lily is on a ventilator. I'm not leaving the hospital." Her reply came almost immediately. "The doctors are taking care of her. Everyone is waiting here. Ethan only turns 18 once." I read it twice because I wanted to believe I had misunderstood. "You know she's on a ventilator?" I asked. "Yes, David. But there is nothing you can do sitting there. Please don't ruin the party over this." My hand tightened around the phone. I looked at Lily instead of answering. Her fingers were warm inside mine. That was the only fact I cared about. The phone began ringing. "Mom." I let it stop. A minute later it rang again. I declined the call and sent one final message. "I'm staying with Lily." I thought that would end it. It didn't. 5 minutes later my sister Melissa texted me. "Mom says you're refusing to help because you're upset about today. What's going on?" I felt something colder than anger settle in my chest. Melissa clearly did not know what was happening. Mom had not told her that Lily was sedated in intensive care with a machine breathing for her. Instead, somehow, I had become the difficult one. I started typing an explanation, then stopped when one of Lily's monitors changed rhythm and a nurse stepped toward the bed. I put the phone down immediately. Family arguments could wait. Lily could not. When the nurse finished checking the equipment and told me nothing had suddenly worsened, I picked up my phone again. 3 more messages were waiting. One was from Melissa. One was from my brother Mark. The last was from Mom. Mark's message said, "Why are you punishing Ethan?" I looked at my daughter, then back at those words. My mother had taken Lily's medical emergency and, within minutes, turned it into a story about me hurting the family. Melissa called before I could answer either message. I stepped no farther than the corner of Lily's room, keeping the bed in sight. "David, what happened?" she asked. Behind her I could hear voices, dishes, and someone laughing. "Lily had a severe respiratory crisis," I said. "She's in intensive care. She's sedated, and she's on a ventilator." The noise on Melissa's end seemed to disappear. "A ventilator?" "Yes." There was a long silence. "Mom said the doctors had everything under control. She said you were staying there because you were upset about Ethan's party." I closed my eyes for a moment. This wasn't the first time Mom had reduced something important to Lily so Ethan could remain at the center of the room. Over the years, there had been changed dinner plans, family weekends rearranged around his activities, celebrations where Lily was expected to be flexible because she was supposedly the easier child. I had usually filled the gaps myself. I remembered dates, promises, who had been told what, and the quiet look Lily gave me whenever another plan changed. More than once, she had said, "It's okay, Dad." I had let those words make peace easier than confrontation. "I'm not upset about the party," I told Melissa. "I'm sitting beside my daughter while a machine breathes for her." I didn't know. Before I could respond, I heard Mom's voice in the background. "Give me the phone." A moment later she was speaking. "David, this has gone far enough. Then tell everyone the truth." "What truth?" "That Lily is in intensive care on a ventilator, and that's why I'm not at Ethan's birthday." Mom lowered her voice. "We don't need to dump hospital drama on everybody in the middle of his party." There it was. Not confusion. Not misunderstanding. A choice. "Tell them, Mom. Stop telling people I'm refusing to help because I'm angry. You are refusing to help because my daughter is critically ill." She sighed as though I were being unreasonable. "Ethan has been looking forward to this for months." "Then have someone pick up the cake from the bakery." Silence. "What?" she asked. "The cake is still at the bakery. I never picked it up. Melissa can send someone. Mark can go. Anyone can go." Another silence, longer this time. "You told everyone I had it, didn't you?" "That's not the point. It is if you're telling them I'm holding Ethan's cake hostage." Mom's voice sharpened. Nobody said hostage. Then corrected. She didn't. Instead, she told me I was making everything difficult, the same accusation I had heard whenever I refused to smooth over another disappointment for Lily. I ended the call before anger could pull me away from what mattered. Melissa texted almost immediately. I honestly thought you had the cake. That's what Mom told us. I answered, I don't. Then I sent the bakery name and order information. Nothing more. Someone could collect it. Ethan could have his birthday cake. I had never wanted otherwise. Mark called next. David, what's going on? Mom says you've been angry for years about how much attention Ethan gets. I looked through the glass toward Lily's bed. Did she tell you where I am? I asked. She said Lily had some breathing trouble. Mark, Lily is in the ICU. She's sedated. She's on a ventilator. His answer came slowly. She didn't tell me that. I heard the first crack in the story Mom had built, but I also understood something worse. The cake had never really been the problem. By the time anyone learned where I actually was, Mom had already given them a reason to believe I was the kind of father and uncle who would use a family emergency to punish an 18-year-old boy. And according to her, I hadn't started resenting Ethan that afternoon. I had been jealous of the attention he received for years. Mark stayed quiet for several seconds. David, I honestly didn't know it was that serious. Neither did Melissa. I kept my voice low. Mom knew. Before he could answer, a respiratory therapist entered Lily's room with a nurse. I told Mark I had to go and put the phone away. They checked the ventilator settings, watched the monitor, and spoke quietly to each other before the therapist turned to me. Lily's numbers were moving in the right direction. That was good. But she still needed the machine, and they were not ready to reduce that support yet. I thanked her and sat down again when they left. Progress, I was learning, could be measured in numbers small enough that nobody outside an ICU would celebrate them. My phone stayed face down for a while. When I finally picked it up, Mark had sent one message. Mom told me it was basically an asthma thing and the doctors had it handled. I stared at that sentence. Mom had known enough to understand the word ventilator. She had simply chosen a version that made my staying at the hospital look unnecessary. Mark called again. This time I answered. Why would she say that? He asked. I don't know. Has she done this before? I looked at Lily. Not like this. That was the most accurate answer I could give him. Mom had favored Ethan for years, but favoritism rarely announced itself as favoritism. It arrived disguised as practicality. Ethan needed the better date. Ethan had already been disappointed. Ethan would take it harder. Lily was mature. Lily understood. Lily could adjust. And she usually did. There had been smaller birthday dinners when family money or attention had already gone towards something for Ethan. There had been plans Lily agreed to change because his schedule suddenly mattered more. Every time, I had tried to make the disappointment smaller without turning her cousin into the enemy. Whatever Mom had done, Ethan was still a kid growing up inside the same family system. Then a new message appeared. It was from Ethan. Uncle David, is Lily really in the ICU? I answered, yes. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Grandma said she was okay, and you were mad about the party. I felt my jaw tighten. I'm not mad at you, Ethan. Lily is very sick. That's why I'm here. His next message took longer. I didn't think you were mad at me. Then another came. And I never thought Lily was jealous of me. That stopped me. I hadn't told him what Mom had been saying about jealousy. He already knew. I asked, what exactly did Grandma tell you? Ethan replied that Mom had said Lily had not wanted to come to his birthday because she was tired of watching the family make a fuss over him. The claim was so far from the girl lying beside me that for a moment I didn't know how to answer. Lily had spent years being the one who said it was fine. She had accepted less attention without asking Ethan to apologize for receiving more. She had stepped aside more times than he probably knew. Once, the previous year, she had given up something far more important than a dinner or a weekend plan. I remembered exactly what she had told me then, and why she had insisted Ethan never know. I wasn't going to break that promise because Mom had started an argument at a birthday party. Not yet. Lily never told me she was jealous of you, I wrote. She never told me she didn't want to celebrate your birthday. Ethan didn't answer for nearly a minute. Then he sent, she was texting me about today this week. Before I could respond, another message appeared. Dad said Grandma told everybody Lily didn't want to come today. Did Lily actually say that? I looked at my daughter's still face and the ventilator tubing beside her. Until that moment, I had been defending my own decision to stay at the hospital. Now I understood that Mom had done something different. She had put words into Lily's mouth while Lily couldn't speak for herself. For a moment, I considered answering Ethan with a simple no. It would have been true, but it would also have left him wondering which adult he was supposed to believe. I needed something that belonged to Lily, not another argument about what she might have meant. Earlier, when the emergency department had transferred her upstairs, a nurse had given me the personal things Lily had arrived with. Her phone and small bag were in the cabinet beside my chair. I had barely looked at either. I took out the bag now because I also needed to find the contact information for a commitment Lily would obviously not be able to keep. Near the bottom, beneath her wallet, I found an envelope with Ethan's name written across the front. I knew her handwriting immediately. Inside was a birthday card. I didn't read every word. I didn't need to. The first lines were enough to make my throat tighten. Lily had written about being proud of Ethan and about something she had spent the last few weeks helping arrange for him. Whatever resentment Mom had described, it wasn't in that card. I checked Lily's phone next. Ethan's recent messages were right there. They had been talking about his birthday during the week. Lily had asked about the timing, joked with him about turning 18, and confirmed that she planned to be there. Those messages had been sent before she became ill. I photographed only the relevant part of the card and the messages that answered Ethan's question. Then I sent them to him. She was planning to come, I wrote. She never told me otherwise. Ethan didn't respond immediately. A few minutes later, Melissa called. Her voice had changed again. Ethan just showed me what you sent him. Then you know. David, Mom told everyone Lily decided not to come because she was upset about the party. I looked toward the bed. Lily can't exactly correct her right now. Melissa exhaled slowly. Ethan asked Mom to tell everyone she misunderstood. Good. She won't. That didn't surprise me. Melissa continued. Mom said you're going through Lily's phone and using her condition to embarrass her. I almost laughed, but there was nothing funny about it. I sent Ethan his own conversation with Lily. I know. That's all. Melissa was quiet. Then she said, I should have asked you before I sent that first message. You were told I was withholding his cake. I still should have asked. It was the first apology anyone had offered me that day, and I didn't know what to do with it except accept it. Just make sure Ethan knows none of this is his fault. He does. Her voice dropped. I'm starting to think that's part of the problem. I waited. We've all let Lily be the one who understands, she said. Whenever something had to change, whenever Ethan needed something, we knew she'd be less likely to complain. Hearing Melissa say it hurt more than hearing Mom deny it. Melissa wasn't trying to excuse herself. She was admitting she had benefited from the pattern because questioning it would have been uncomfortable. Then she mentioned something from the previous year. Ethan had almost lost an important opportunity when she couldn't cover an unexpected cost in time. Melissa said she had always believed Mom stepped in and paid what was needed. I sat completely still. Mom didn't pay that, I said. What do you mean? I mean the money didn't come from her. Melissa sounded confused. Then who paid it? I looked at Lily. There were some things she had asked me never to tell Ethan because she hadn't wanted kindness turned into a debt. I had kept that promise for a year. Now my mother was telling the family that the same girl had spent years resenting him. Melissa, I said carefully. Before I answer that, I need you to understand something. Lily never wanted Ethan to know. Melissa didn't say anything for several seconds. I could hear the party continuing somewhere behind her, but her voice was quiet when she finally asked, Was it David? Partly, I said, but not the part you're thinking. The previous year, Ethan had been accepted into a school training program that included a trip he had worked hard to qualify for. Then Melissa had been hit with an unexpected expense, and the program deposit came due before she could recover financially. Ethan had been preparing to withdraw. Lily found out. At the time, she had been saving for months for something she wanted badly enough that she tracked every dollar in a notebook on her desk. When she asked me how much Ethan was short, I thought she was simply worried about him. Then she pushed her savings across the kitchen table and told me to use them. I had refused at first. She was 16. It was her money. She had earned and saved it herself. But Lily kept insisting. He worked for this, Dad. Don't let him lose it because Aunt Melissa had a bad month. I agreed only after promising to cover the remaining difference. Myself. Then Lily added one condition. Ethan couldn't know. She didn't want him spending the trip feeling indebted to her. I told Melissa enough of that now to answer her question. I did not tell her every detail of what Lily had given up. You're saying Lily helped pay that deposit? Melissa whispered. Yes. Mom told me she handled it. Mom knew we helped. She didn't provide the money. I still had the transfer confirmation because I had made the payment myself, and the old messages with Melissa about where the payment needed to go had never been deleted. I sent her the relevant record. She went quiet again. The date matches, she said finally. I can check my old messages. A few minutes later she did. Her message came back short. You're right. That mattered more than anything I could have said about Mom. Melissa had verified it herself. Then another message arrived. Does Ethan know? No, David, he should. Lily didn't want him to. But after what Mom is saying, her kindness wasn't supposed to become evidence in a family argument. I heard my own words and felt how impossible the situation had become. Keeping Lily's confidence protected what she had wanted. Keeping it also allowed Mom to describe her as jealous of the very person she had quietly helped. Ethan apparently learned enough from Melissa to understand that something important had been hidden from him, because he texted me soon afterward. Did Lily give something up for me last year? I didn't answer immediately. Then I wrote, she helped because she wanted you to have the opportunity. She never wanted you to owe her anything. His reply took several minutes. Why didn't anybody tell me? Because she asked us not to. And Grandma knew? I stared at that question before answering. She knew Lily helped. Ethan sent nothing after that. I imagined him standing in the middle of a birthday celebration that suddenly felt different from the one he'd started that afternoon. I didn't want him confronting Mom for me. I didn't want Lily's private generosity projected onto a wall for relatives to inspect. So when Melissa called again and said Ethan wanted to stop the party and tell everyone what had happened, I said no. Not like that. Not yet. Then what are we supposed to do? Nothing that turns Lily into ammunition. I looked at my daughter, still unconscious beneath the steady rhythm of the ventilator. I'm staying here. That's what I'm doing. A message from Mom appeared while I was speaking. I opened it after the call ended. If you keep creating drama, I'll tell everyone why Lily has always resented Ethan. For the first time that day, I understood exactly what waiting might cost. Mom wasn't backing away. She was preparing to make Lily's silence work for her again. Mom did not wait for an answer. Within 20 minutes, Melissa sent me a screenshot from the family group chat. Mom had written that Lily's hospitalization was unfortunate, but it did not change the real problem. According to her, Lily had spent years resenting the attention Ethan received, and I had encouraged it by constantly treating normal family decisions as unfair. She described missed gatherings, changed plans, and moments when Lily had stepped aside, but stripped away every reason those things had happened. Reading it felt like watching someone take pieces of my daughter's life and rearrange them into a person I didn't recognize. A few relatives responded cautiously. Others accepted Mom's version because they remembered the outcomes. Lily hadn't attended this. Lily had changed that plan. Ethan had received something she hadn't. They had never asked what happened before those moments because Lily rarely complained afterward. Melissa began checking. She called me about one family weekend Mom claimed Lily had refused to attend because Ethan was getting too much attention. Melissa remembered now that Lily had changed her plans because Ethan's schedule had shifted at the last minute. Mark independently remembered another occasion when Lily had given up her place in a family plan after Mom insisted Ethan needed it more. Neither incident proved everything, but together they changed the shape of Mom's story. Melissa posted one correction in the group chat. David didn't refuse to bring Ethan's cake because he was angry. The cake was still at the bakery, and Lily is in the ICU on a ventilator. I didn't know that when I first messaged him. It was the first time someone had publicly challenged Mom. Her response came quickly. She accused Melissa of letting me manipulate her. Then she wrote that everyone would understand once they saw how long I had been teaching Lily to feel mistreated. I was reading that message when the respiratory therapist returned. This time, the expression on her face kept me from looking at my phone again. The team had tried easing Lily's respiratory support, hoping her lungs were ready to take more of the work. She hadn't tolerated it as well as they wanted. They were restoring the previous level of support and would give her more time before trying again. It wasn't a collapse. Nobody ran into the room. No alarm announced disaster. But the small piece of hope I had been holding all afternoon suddenly moved farther away. So she still needs the ventilator, I said. For now, yes. I put my phone face down on the chair and moved beside Lily. I didn't answer Mom. I didn't answer the relatives asking questions. I didn't send screenshots or records. For the next few hours, my entire world became the rise of Lily's chest, the numbers on the monitor, and the quiet explanations from the people caring for her. Whatever story Mom wanted to tell at a birthday party could survive without my participation. My daughter needed me present more than my reputation needed defending. When I finally checked my phone again, the party was winding down and the group chat had grown considerably. Mom had interpreted my silence exactly as I might have expected. David has stopped answering because he knows there are two sides to this, she had written. For a moment, it looked as though she had won back some of the relatives who had started questioning her. Then I saw Melissa's response beneath it. No. David stopped answering because Lily's doctors were trying to reduce her ventilator support, and it didn't go as hoped. Stop using his silence as proof of anything. Mom answered Melissa almost immediately. You don't know the whole history. Then she added one more message. I have proof David has been turning Lily against this family for years. I looked from those words to Lily's bed. Mom had been given several chances to stop. Instead, every correction had only made her reach for a larger accusation. Mom's proof arrived as screenshots of old messages between Lily and me. I recognized them immediately. In one, Lily had asked whether she had to attend a family dinner after spending most of the previous gathering being compared with Ethan. I had replied, no. If being there is hurting you, you don't have to go just to keep everyone comfortable. In another, I had told her we could leave a holiday gathering early if Mom started criticizing her again. Mom posted only those lines, without the conversations around them. To anyone who hadn't lived through the events, they could look like a father teaching his daughter to withdraw from the family. A few relatives who had begun questioning Mom shifted again. One wrote that maybe there had been problems on both sides. Another said families shouldn't keep score. That phrase almost made me put the phone down permanently. Melissa called. She's making it look like you caused this. I know. I can explain some of it. Not all of it. That was the problem. To correct everything, I would have to expose things Lily had trusted me to keep private. The training program money was only the clearest example. There were smaller moments too, choices Lily had never treated as transactions and never expected anyone to repay. Turning them into a case against my mother felt like betraying the reason Lily had made them quietly in the first place. Then Ethan texted me. I'm done with the party. I called him immediately. Ethan, don't make a scene. I'm not. I just don't want to celebrate anymore. His voice sounded older than it had that morning. Mom and Dad can bring me to the hospital. No, Uncle David. This hospital isn't where we settle this. Lily needs quiet, and you don't need to prove anything by showing up here. He was silent. Then tell her something for me when she wakes up. I will. Tell her I'm sorry I didn't notice. That hurt in a way none of Mom's accusations had. You were never supposed to feel guilty for being loved, I told him. None of this is your fault. After we hung up, I sat beside Lily and thought about the promise I had made her a year earlier. She had wanted Ethan protected from feeling indebted to her. She had wanted her generosity to remain generosity. But now Mom was using that silence to build a history in which Lily's kindness became jealousy. I could preserve Lily's privacy completely and allow that lie to stand, or I could reveal enough to defend her and accept that she might one day be angry with me for doing it. I chose the second option, but I set a boundary for myself. I would not catalog every sacrifice Lily had ever made. I would use only what was necessary to correct what Mom had said. I gathered the relevant messages and the payment record Melissa had already verified. Mark sent me the details of the incident he remembered. Melissa had her own records. I told them both I would speak once, when Lily was stable enough for me to step away for a few minutes. Then Mom sent another message to the family group. Lily being in the hospital doesn't erase the way she has treated Ethan. I read it once. There was nothing left to misunderstand. She knew Lily was still ventilated. She knew Lily had helped Ethan. She knew her first story about the cake was false. And she was still choosing this. Before I could respond, Lily's doctor came into the room. I locked my phone and stood. He told me they had seen enough improvement since the earlier setback to begin planning another cautious attempt to reduce her ventilator support. It wasn't a promise. Lily still had to do the work her lungs hadn't managed before. But for the first time in hours, the next step belonged to her recovery instead of my mother's accusations. I put the phone back in my pocket. Mom could have the last word for a little longer. Lily needed me more. The next attempt began quietly. No dramatic rush of people. No sudden announcement that everything was going to be fine. The respiratory therapist adjusted Lily's support while her doctor watched the numbers, and I stood beside the bed with one hand around hers. This time, her lungs accepted more of the work. Not all of it. Not enough for anyone to promise me we were finished with the ventilator, but enough that the doctor finally used the word encouraging. I stayed with her through the entire process. Whatever happened with my family could wait until the people keeping my daughter alive no longer needed my attention. Later, when Lily was resting under the reduced support and the room had settled again, Melissa called. Mark was with her. Mom was on the call too. I stepped just outside Lily's room where I could still see her through the glass. Before we do this, I said, Mom, I'm giving you one more chance. Tell everyone Lily never said she resented Ethan. Tell them you knew she was on a ventilator when you told people I was refusing to help with the party. Mom immediately answered, I'm not going to apologize for telling the truth about years of problems. Then I'll correct the parts that aren't true. I didn't give a speech. I started with Lily's card and the messages Ethan had already seen. They showed that she had planned to attend his birthday and had been talking with him about it days before she became critically ill. Mom tried to say Lily could have changed her mind. Melissa interrupted. Carol, you told us Lily had already refused because she was jealous. That wasn't true. Then I showed the messages Mom had sent me after I told her Lily was ventilated. She could no longer claim she hadn't understood why I stayed at the hospital. Melissa confirmed that Mom had described Lily's condition to everyone as something doctors already had under control. Mark confirmed he'd been told essentially the same thing. Mom changed direction. That doesn't erase the history between those two kids. Then let's talk about the history you keep describing, I said. I shared the payment record from Ethan's training program and only the messages necessary to explain it. Melissa confirmed independently that the date and amount matched her old records. I thought you paid it, she told Mom. You let me believe you did. Mom said she had never specifically claimed the money was hers. Maybe that distinction mattered to her. It didn't change where the money had come from. Part of it was Lily's, I said. She had been saving it for herself. She gave it up because Ethan was going to lose an opportunity he'd earned. She made me promise not to tell him because she didn't want him to feel indebted to her. The call went silent. Then Ethan spoke. I hadn't realized Melissa had let him listen. Grandma, you knew? Mom hesitated. I knew Lily wanted to help. And you still told everyone she hated seeing people do things for me? Mom began explaining that Ethan had always needed more support, that Lily was stronger, that families sometimes had to give different children different things. Mark interrupted to confirm the smaller incident he remembered. Melissa added the family weekend she had checked. Neither was devastating alone. Together, they showed the pattern clearly. Lily had repeatedly adjusted, and Mom had later used those adjustments as proof that something was wrong with her. I never asked Lily to do those things, Ethan said. No one is blaming you, Mom replied quickly. I am not letting you use me as the reason this was okay, he said. That was the moment the balance changed. Not because I had defeated my mother, but because the person she had spent all day defending refused the role she had assigned him. Mom tried again. Ethan needed more. I looked through the glass at Lily, still breathing with help, but doing more of the work herself. Needing more never required Lily to matter less. Nobody spoke for several seconds. Then I told Mom what would happen next. During Lily's recovery, she would have no direct access to her unless Lily later decided she wanted it. I wasn't punishing her. I wasn't asking the family to choose sides. I was protecting my daughter from someone who had attacked her character while she was unable to defend herself. Melissa said she would set her own boundaries around Ethan. Mark said the family needed to stop treating Mom's version of events as fact simply because she said it first. Mom began to apologize, then turned the apology into another explanation. I didn't stay to hear the rest. Lily needs me, I said, and ended the call. When I returned to her bedside, the ventilator was still there. The tubes were still there. Nothing had magically disappeared, because my family finally understood the truth. But the therapist checked the machine, looked at Lily's numbers, and told me she was now doing more of the breathing herself. I sat beside my daughter and took her hand again. For the first time that day, something that actually mattered had moved in the right direction. Over the next few days, progress came in pieces small enough that I learned not to rush any of them. Lily needed time. Her lungs needed time. Eventually, the doctors were satisfied that she could do enough of the work herself, and the ventilator was removed. Hearing my daughter breathe without that machine should have sounded ordinary. It didn't. It was the most important sound I had heard all week. Recovery wasn't immediate. Lily was weak, her throat hurt, and even short conversations exhausted her. I didn't tell her everything about the family right away. She had spent enough energy surviving without waking up to a complete account of what people had said while she couldn't answer them. Ethan waited until Lily was ready before visiting. When he finally came, there was no dramatic confrontation between them because there had never really been one. He sat beside her, awkward and emotional, and eventually admitted that he knew about the money she had given up for his training program. Lily turned her eyes toward me. Even exhausted, she could still give me the exact look that had gotten me through 17 years of fatherhood. Dad, I know. You promised. I did. I told her why I had broken that promise and exactly how much I had revealed. She wasn't pleased. I hadn't expected her to be. Her privacy still belonged to her, even when I believed I had a good reason for crossing that line. After a while, though, she asked what Grandma had been saying. I told her enough for her to understand. Lily closed her eyes for several seconds. Then she looked at Ethan. You know I wasn't jealous of you, right? Ethan's face tightened. I know now. I should have noticed more. You weren't supposed to apologize for having a birthday. That was Lily. Even then, she refused to turn him into the villain. Melissa apologized too, directly and without blaming Mom. For everything. She admitted that she had accepted a family arrangement that benefited Ethan because Lily rarely complained. She couldn't undo that, but she could stop participating in it. And Ethan made that easier by refusing any future version of "he needs it more" that automatically meant Lily should receive less. Mom sent an apology. I read it, but I didn't treat one message as proof that anything had been repaired. She had spent years making choices we had excused as small, then attacked Lily's character when those choices were finally questioned. Trust would not return because she found the right words after the evidence ran out of room for denial. I told Lily that any future relationship with her grandmother would happen on Lily's terms, when and if she wanted it. For now, the boundary stayed. A few days later, after Lily reached another small recovery milestone, one of the hospital staff brought her a simple little cake to mark the occasion. Nothing elaborate. Nothing anyone had spent months planning. Lily looked at it and managed a tired smile. I remembered the message that had appeared beside her bed when the ventilator was doing her breathing for her. Bring the cake to the party now. At the time, those words had seemed to tell me exactly where my daughter ranked in my mother's priorities. Now I watched Lily take a small bite, tease me weakly about looking more exhausted than she did, and breathe on her own between every sentence. There was no crowd around us. No birthday decorations. No family argument left to win. Just my daughter, still here. That week had started with someone demanding that I leave Lily's bedside for a celebration. It ended with the only celebration I had needed all along. Watching her breathe without a machine.